Copyright disclaimer. Under Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips a balance in favor of fair use. Okay, so this is from 1997 to 2001, .state.gov. This is U.S. Department of State. The State Department website below is a permanent electronic archive of information released online from January 1st, 1997 to January 20th, 2001. Please see www.state.gov for current material from the Department of State, or visit http://2001 to 2009.state.gov for information from that period. Archive sites are not updated, so external links may no longer function. Contact us with any questions about finding information. Note: external links to other internet sites should not be construed as an endorsement of the views contained therein. U.S. Department of State. Germany Country Report on Human Rights Practices for 1998. Released by the Bureau of Democracy, Human Rights, and Labor. February 26, 1999. Germany. The Federal Republic of Germany is a constitutional parliamentary democracy. Citizens periodically choose their representatives in free and fair multi-party elections. The head of the federal government, the Chancellor, is elected by the lower house of Parliament. The powers of the Chancellor and of the Parliament are set forth in the Basic Law, Constitution. The 16 states enjoy significant autonomy, especially as concerns law enforcement and the courts, education, the environment, and social assistance. The judiciary is independent. Law enforcement is primarily a responsibility of state governments, and the police are organized at the state level. The jurisdiction of the Federal Criminal Office is limited to counterterrorism, international organized crime, especially narcotics trafficking, weapons smuggling, and currency counterfeiting. Police forces in general are well trained, disciplined, and mindful of citizens' rights, although there were instances of police abuse. A well-developed industrial economy provides citizens with a high standard of living. The government generally respects the human rights of its citizens, and the law and judiciary provide effective means of dealing with instances of individual abuse. However, instances of police abuse continued, especially involving foreigners. Societal violence and harassment directed at foreign residents continued. However, crimes against foreign residents decreased by 25% in the first half of 1998, compared with the first half of 1997. Anti-Semitic incidents decreased by 15% during the same period. The government is taking serious steps to address the problem of violence against women and children. Women continue to face some wage discrimination in the private sector, as do members of minorities and foreigners. Respect for human rights. Section 1. Respect for the integrity of the person, including freedom from a. political and other extrajudicial killing. There were no reports of political or other extrajudicial killings by government officials. The trial of Yasser Mohammed Shradi Ali Chana, alias Alba, and his former wife, Verena Helga Chana, a German national, and his wife's sister, Andrea Hausler, also a German, in the case of the April 1986 bombing of the Berlin discotheque La Belle. I always notice it's the public places that get bombed. Must be a conspiracy. which began in 1997, continues and is not expected to reach a verdict for at least 2 years. The attack killed 1 Turkish citizen and 2 U.S. citizens and injured 230 persons. Okay, you guys, I was looking for the part of this article that focuses on Scientology because it was just getting way too long. So I'm jumping to this part. The Church of Scientology remained under scrutiny by both federal and state officials who contend that it is not a religion, but an economic enterprise. How about that, LAPD? It's an economic enterprise, LAPD. Authorities sometimes sought to deregister Scientology organizations, previously registered as nonprofit associations, and require them to register as commercial enterprises. In 1997, the Federal Administrative Court in Berlin, in sending an appeal concerning the deregistration of a Scientology organization in the state of Baden-Württemberg, back to a lower level for further review, declared that a registered nonprofit association, religious or otherwise, could engage in entrepreneurial activities as long as these were only supplementary and collateral to its nonprofit goals. The case continued in the lower court at year's end. Some government officials allege that Scientology's goals and methods are anti-democratic and call for further restrictions on Scientology-affiliated organizations and individuals. Hold on. In 1997, authorities of the federal and state OPCs placed Scientology under observation for a year because of concerns raised by some offices that there were indications that Scientology may pose a threat to democracy. Under the observation decision, OPC officials seek to collect information mostly from written materials and first-hand accounts to assess whether a threat exists. More intrusive methods would be subject to legal checks and would require evidence of involvement in treasonous or terrorist activity. Federal OPC authorities stated that no request had been made to employ more intrusive methods, nor were any such requests envisioned. In November, federal and state OPCs agreed to continue the observation of Scientology, subject to another review in 1999. The decision was based on an OPC report that concluded that although there was no imminent danger for the political system or the economy of being infiltrated by Scientology, there were nevertheless indications of tendencies within Scientology, supported by its ideology and programmatic goals, which could be seen as directed against Germany's free and democratic order. One state, Schleswig-Holstein, did not agree to implement such observation on the grounds that the situation did not appear to justify such measures. Scientology filed a suit in Berlin to enjoin the Berlin Interior Ministry from the alleged practice of bribing members of Scientology to spy on other members. The case continued at year's end. In April, officials in Baden-Württemberg posted bail and apologized to Swiss authorities when one of their police investigators gathering information on Scientology's activities in Baden-Württemberg was arrested by Swiss police after interviewing a contact in Basel. The investigator was charged with espionage and violating Swiss neutrality. Most major political parties continued to exclude Scientologists from membership, arguing that Scientology is not a religion, but a for-profit organization whose goals and principles are anti-democratic and thus incompatible with those of the political parties. However, there has been only one known instance of enforcement of this ban. In a 1997 ruling a Bonn state court upheld the expulsion of 3 Scientologists from a state-level organization of the Christian Democratic Union Party. See, they're doing the same thing in the United States. They went to Germany and tried to do it. Ruling that a political party had the right to exclude from its organization those persons who do not identify themselves with the party's basic goals. In June, the commission established in 1996 to investigate so-called sex and psychogroups, including Scientology, presented its final report to Parliament. The report concluded that these groups did not pose a threat to society. Imagine the turnaround there. You guys know what's up. Instead, and underlied the constitutional principle of religious freedom and the state's obligation to observe strict neutrality in these matters. However, it called upon the government to introduce legislation for consumer protection in the psycho market and highlighted the need for the government to inform the public about dangers to health and property posed by psychocults and groups. Particular emphasis was placed on Scientology because it allegedly pursued policies of misinformation and intimidation of its critics, according to the report. The report did not classify Scientology as a religion, but as a profit-oriented psycho group with totalitarian internal structures and undemocratic goals. The commission contended that there were concrete indications that Scientology was a political extremist organization. In German, combined with totalitarian tendencies, the commission also recommended to Parliament that observation of Scientology continue. The report also recommended that because of its derogatory connotation, the term sect should be avoided, and that instead the designation new religious and ideological communities and psycho groups be used. The report referred to psycho groups as commercial cults that offered their services in a fast-growing psycho market. The interministerial group of mid-level federal and state officials that exchanges information on Scientology-related issues continued its periodic meetings. The group published no report or policy compendium during the year and remains purely consultative in purpose. On June 4th, Bavarian Interior Minister Gunther Beckstein released 2 new brochures warning against the Church of Scientology. See how they're ringing the alarms? The Scientology system and Scientology, an anti-constitutional movement, warned about alleged hard sell methods by the church and asserted that Scientology was striving for world power. Yeah, like clearing the planet. Doesn't have any Illuminati vibes, does it? Beckstein asserted that the church was even ordering the commission of criminal acts and compared its psychological methods to those of the former East German secret police. He added that due to government measures, membership in Germany had dropped to an estimated 10,000 persons. Scientologists continue to report discrimination, alleging both government condone and societal harassment because of their church affiliation. Oh, see, always the little cards that they use. So when they're not a church, they use societal harassment. When they're in somewhere that it's called a church, they whine and cry about religious freedom. You know, religious freedom to torture, abuse, traffic, physically abuse, neglect, and also in many cases, I think 98% is my opinion from all the research that I've done, that 98% of their children are sexually abused. Public record. Sect filters. Statements by individuals that they are not affiliated with Scientology are used by some businesses and other organizations to discriminate against Scientologists in business and social dealings. Scientologists assert that business firms whose owners or executives are Scientologists as well as artists who are church members, faced boycotts and discrimination, sometimes with state and local government approval. Other church members reported employment difficulties, and in the state of Bavaria, applicants for state civil service positions are screened for Scientology membership. However, according to Bavarian and federal officials, no one in Bavaria lost a job, was denied employment, or suffered any infringement of rights by public officials or entities solely because of association with Scientology. Bavarian officials also contended that a Scientologist was teaching in a Munich public school, and that, oh, look at that, you guys. You guys know what's up with that. And that another Scientologist was a member of the Bavarian Ministry of Culture. Several states had published pamphlets warning of alleged dangers posed by Scientology. You see, they infiltrate. In June, foreign professional tennis player Arnaud Boch contract with the Rupert Tennis Club to represent the club in the German Championship League was canceled when the club learned that he was a Scientologist. People with sense. Hold on. Germs ain't playing with that bullshit. A United Nations report in April agreed that individuals were discriminated against. There they go. You see, they always use the same things. They use discrimination, religious freedom. I don't know. I can't think of the other ones right now. That individuals were discriminated against. I guess they're the children in Scientology. Sure as F are discriminated against, aren't they? Because of their affiliation with Scientology. However, it rejected Scientology's comparison of the treatment of its members with that of the Jews during the Nazi era. Can you imagine? Can you imagine, like, the disrespect and audacity? In August, officials in Frankfurt defended their decision to allow about 6,000 Scientology members and supporters to hold a demonstration in the city's Opera Square. Responding to criticism for issuing the demonstration permit, the officials defended Scientology's freedom of assembly. Scientologists continue to take grievances to the courts. How is that not harassment? Remember what they did to the IRS agents in the United States? I don't even know how that was legal, you guys. I really don't. And I don't think it was, to be honest. Legal rulings have been mixed. Some individuals who had been fired because they are Scientologists took their employers to court for unfair dismissal. They love to be in the courts, don't they? Several have reached out to court settlements with employers. D is in Delta, freedom of movement within the country, foreign travel, emigration, and repatriation. Citizens are free to move anywhere within the country, to travel abroad, to emigrate, and to repatriate, without restrictions that violate human rights. Imagine that, you guys. Last 4 years sure did change things, didn't it? Now, this is Germany, but I'm just saying. For ethnic Germans from Eastern Europe and the former Soviet Union, the basic law provides both for citizenship immediately, upon application, and for legal residence without restrictions. Other persons may acquire citizenship, and with it the right of unrestricted residence, if they meet certain requirements, including legal residence for at least 10 years, 5 if married to a German, renunciation of all other citizenships, and a basic command of the language. Long-term legal residents often opt not to apply. They receive the same social benefits as do citizens, and after 10 years of legal residency, they are entitled to permanent residence. Well, only after 10 years. Wonder if they have to take in the United States, you have to take a test. I think in Canada you do too. You have to take a test, regarding the laws of the country, I think. The basic law and subsequent legislation provide for the right of foreign victims of political persecution to attain asylum and resettlement. The government cooperates with the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees and other humanitarian organizations in assisting refugees. Okay, hold on, guys. Okay, I'm just trying to talk about the Scientology stuff. They had some really interesting information here about refugees and refugee status, and they were talking about Bosnian refugees, and I couldn't help but remember when I was stationed in Germany. Let's see, I was there in, let me see here. I was there in 91 and 92, and there were a lot of, I lived in Würzburg, and there were a lot of Bosnian people escaping into Germany. It just reminded me of that. So the other part of Scientology here, Scientologists continue to report instances of societal discrimination. See Section 2, Charlie. See what they do. Okay, you guys. I found something that I found interesting. This is interesting. The basic law. Okay, so prohibition of forced or compulsory labor. The basic law prohibits forced or compulsory labor, including forced or bonded child labor. And listen to this, you guys. You guys know. Now you know it's BS. And there were no reports that it occurred. Come on. Scientology alone. So I'm going to peruse this and see if there's anything else regarding Scientology. Okay, so that was it. Actually very interesting. It was interesting to see how, like, German laws and how they think about civil liberties and human rights. They really don't like Scientology, which is good. Disappointing that they're saying there were no reports of child labor or something to that effect. But anyways, in writing, it all looks good on paper, doesn't it? So I will leave a link in the description box. Like and subscribe if you choose. Otherwise, have an amazing day or night, wherever you are. Peace.